So the talk today, when Mike and I thought about putting this talk together, we spend a lot of time speaking with folks about their careers. A lot of folks are very good at what they do and their profession, and they might be great pen testers or great risk managers. But a lot of times what happens is that in the throes of your job, you stop thinking about yourself. You stop thinking about what's the future. And I think a lot of times those things kind of weigh on your satisfaction. People get into ruts. And I think that when it comes down to it, you really have to start thinking about your career as if you were running your own company. Because at the end of times, you are the biggest money-making vehicle that you have. It's bigger than any investment. It's bigger than the stock market, real estate, obviously real estate. But I mean,
especially in Vegas.
There you go. But I mean, it's the one investment that you really control. And I think that if people took a more business-focused approach to managing their careers, satisfaction would increase, compensation would increase, and you would probably get to where you want to go a lot quicker.
Michael Gerber, the famous author of a book called The E-Myth, writes a lot about entrepreneurship. And he says that one of the biggest problems for entrepreneurs, and both Lee and I are entrepreneurs, so we live this daily. One of the biggest problems that most entrepreneurs face is getting stuck working in their business too much and not working on their business enough. So, if you're a pen tester, you spend all your time doing pen tests, and you don't spend your time doing sales, doing marketing, doing finance, doing operations, because it's so, we all do our thing. And if that's a problem for entrepreneurs who really, are aware that a business has all that kind of an issue, it's even more of a problem for us, as practitioners. Most of us work in our jobs almost exclusively. How often do you go to work and think, I'm not going to do my tasks today, I need to work on my career? You don't. You go do your thing for however much time, and then you come home and you're done. But that becomes a problem because that becomes, you don't progress over the course of 30 or 40 years. And frankly, that was something we could have done a long time ago. But security is really changing, and we've said it for the last couple of years wherever we've talked. Our industry's undergoing a sea change, partially because the economy is bad, but also partially because we're growing up. It's changed a whole lot in the last few years, and we see the job of the future, the next 5 years, changing even more than it's changed to this point.
And I think the most important thing about the future is that time remains a constant in everybody's career, and the future will eventually get here. So the time to start planning for the future is really now. And if you start looking at some components, we're not in our parents' workforce. Companies are not making the investments necessary in their people. So investing in building your careers is something that is your responsibility. And if you look around the people in the room, everybody wants the same thing. How many people would aspire to be either a chief security architect or a chief information security officer in this room? Yeah. How many would aspire to just be an entrepreneur of some sort? So basically everybody wants, if you look around, we all want the same thing. So think about who you're competing with. You're competing with everybody else in the room, just like in business. In business, the product vendors compete, the services vendors compete, the car manufacturers compete. So when you start thinking about it, is that if the companies aren't going to care about how you get there, it really becomes your responsibility and your undertaking.
And the differentiators are going away. When I got I said this on a podcast I was on yesterday. When I got my CISSP, I was CISSP number 11,000 or something. It was a really low number. And nobody really had one. So CISSP was a differentiator. There's 67,000 CISSPs at this point.
Is everybody feeling special now?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Lee actually brought up we're going to change this slide at some point to be a deli counter with those little ticket number things. You're number 67,000.
Now serving.
Yeah, now serving number 67,000. How does, there's no college football ranking system that says this person's number 2 and this person's number 67,000. It doesn't mean anything anymore. It's the price of admission. It's a signal of your interest in the industry and of a moderately baseline level of competence. It means you read a book. That's not a bad thing, but it's not a differentiator.
It's not going to help get you where you want to go alone. It's going to be a component, but it's not going to be the only thing. And when in the past it was enough, now it's just a ticket to the party.
And it's like, I mean, our industry is especially prone to this. It's like what you have to do is move to the point where you're managing your career as a business. We have a lot of friends who are really great practitioners, and they go out and start a business. You're a brilliant researcher. Okay, now I'm in business for myself. Well, most of those people just end up as contractors. They're not really in business. They're a contractor. If you're in business, you think like a CEO.
Does anybody have any impressions what the main function of a CEO's role is in business? Harris? Okay, that's good. Vision?
Go for it. Increase profit. I like profit.
That's good. We're all fans of profit.
Yeah.
But to me, the way I've always been told that, I think all those are good answers. But what I always see is that the CEO's main job in a company is to make decisions, and to make decisions with the best interest in the company in mind. And when you start thinking about, when you start thinking about yourself as the CEO of your career. So just to draw some parallels is that where the CEO is making some decisions about the company and the company's well-being, in your own career, you're going to make your decisions about yourself and what your own personal well-being is. The great thing about decisions, and when you own those decisions, is that you get to reap the rewards, and you also get to suffer the consequences.
You get the exorbitant CEO pay for your own business. You get 100% of the profits.
And the thing is this, the CEO of companies is accountable to everybody. They're accountable to their employees, their shareholders, their board of directors, their customers. When you're the CEO of your own company, you're accountable to your family. You're accountable to yourself. You're accountable to your employer. And to some extent, you're accountable to your peers in the industry. And the other thing is this, is that the CEO every day, they're basically auditioning for their job, auditioning to keep their job. And when you run your own business, you're always auditioning for your next position. Because every day you're trying out, every day somebody is judging you, and you have to think about that anybody who you can interact with can ultimately change the course of your life.
I got a question for you guys. You're starting a business today. You've just been nominated yourself CEO of You Inc. What's the first thing you're going to do? Get a plan. First thing you do is you write a business plan. Because if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. And it's amazing. All good businesses start with a plan. And they don't necessarily start with a 55-page formal business justification written up in, awesome, beautifully typed font and looking like the kind of thing that you send to a bank. But everybody has a plan.
Napkin.
Yeah, napkin.
Napkin's good.
Some of my best business ideas have been on the back of a napkin. But you have to know what business you're in. It's the first thing. What do you provide to your customers? What market is there for you? What's out there? What kind of stuff are you going to see? Who's your competition? What's going to keep you from being successful? What's the goal? And ultimately, what's the exit strategy? If you're starting a business today, you have to decide, am I building this business to still be profitable 40 years from now? Or am I building this business to be a quick business that's probably going to last 3 or 4 years? You can make that decision.
I mean, when you look at businesses, some companies either, they go public, they get acquired, or some businesses are run as lifestyle businesses. So you have to think about it, how long do I want to be working? How much is my lifestyle a factor in making business decisions? So you start thinking about all these different components just as if you were running a company.
How many of you guys have a written plan for your life and career, your own personal business? Hands high. Yeah, that's about right. Actually, that's almost exactly right. That's what we saw. We did a big survey a year and a half ago now, and that's what our industry said. And it's amazing. A few of you guys near the back of the room, put your hands up. You're all very much more likely better off than the rest of the room. You make more money, you're probably a more senior person, and you're probably happier with your job. Blows my mind. This one thing. Now, I'm not making the mistake that correlation implies causality. I'm not saying if you write a plan, you're suddenly going to be better off. But for some reason, the people who plan are better off. Don't know why, but I have a hunch that if you know where you're going, you end up getting there more often. If you know that, hey, I'd be really happy if I had a job where I didn't have to travel. If you've thought that out, you can seek that out. If you don't think it out, you don't get there. Ultimately, you need to, if you really want to run your career as a business, you need to make a plan. You need to tie where you're going to be 10 years from now to what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do next week? And ultimately, this plan is not, actually, I'm going to tangent for a second. Lee always quotes Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? I'm not saying you should write a plan and stick to it. I'm not saying you're going to write a plan and you're going to do everything on there and everything's going to be perfect. Because I've never seen someone say, my life goal is to go through a bankruptcy next year. My life goal is to get foreclosed on. And we know how, watch the news. None of those people planned for that. It happens. But a plan gives you focus and a reference point with which to navigate the decisions you're going to make.
So think about when you're building your career plan, right? Think about what's important. So I think that we all had to share our hands. We all thought of maybe what our ultimate career goals are. That's a great place to start when you're building a plan. Think about the destination that you want to go towards. And then you have to start getting honest with yourself. You have to really take a good look in the mirror and understand what talents you have, what skills you currently have. What do other people think of your talents? What do other people think of your skills? And then you have to take a look and you say, okay, let's do a gap assessment. If I want to reach my goal, and that goal requires skills A through Z, and I have skills A, C, E, F, and G, I'm going to have to find a way to acquire those missing skills so I could be qualified for my long-term career goal. And then also you got to think about your competition, because they're thinking the same exact thing. The idea is this, is that your career has an ultimate destination, but there are destinations along the way, and making the right decisions about which jobs you take, which type of companies that you work in. There should be a strategy towards that. There should be a method to that madness, so it will ultimately lead you where you want to go. And there's so many different directions that you can take in information security that it's generally very easy to get lost. It's very easy to take a position where you don't pick up any skills, but you get a new color golf shirt. You think about it. Think about how many times you've taken a job and then you found out the job that you've taken is basically the same job that you left. And it's just that you've maybe gotten a little bit more money, maybe you've gotten a little bit of different title or different bonus plan, but at the end of the day, you're doing the same thing. You're staying stagnant in your careers. So the concept behind is this, is that you have to continue towards, you got to keep those long-term career goals in mind, and you have to build a strategy to continue to invest in yourself to build those skills in order to get them.
All right, you got a plan. Next step, once you got a plan.